So we've looked at these definitions. Now let's put them into some kind of context by looking at the actual opened abdomen and seeing what we can find. So here we have an opened abdomen. We have the peritoneal cavity has been exposed. Now, here we can see the flaps of the anterior abdominal wall. Now, lining this surface will be parietal peritoneum. Tightly associated with the organs will be visceral peritoneum. And if it's not visceral peritoneum, it's going to be parietal peritoneum running along the posterior abdominal wall. And here we have this peritoneal cavity. Essentially, it is like a balloon has been placed into the abdomen and is pushed against the walls. And these organs have protruded into it. So there's nothing actually within the peritoneal cavity except a thin serous fluid, because the organs have pushed through the peritoneum without actually piercing it. Just like you've pushed your finger through a balloon. You don't actually pierce the balloon, but you go through the balloon's surface and you can project your fingers into the cavity, which is filled with air. That is the peritoneal cavity. We can divide the cavity into a greater sac and a lesser sac. And we can see the greater sac here. You open up the abdomen and the greater sac is what you see, and you can put your hand into it. If we lift up the greater omentum, like we have done in previous occasions, we lift up the greater omentum, we have a nicer view of the greater sac where we can see the small intestines again, we can see the ascending and descending colon. So we can explore the greater sac. If we flop the greater omentum down and we lift up the liver, then we can see this view, which is the stomach connected to the liver. And here we can see the lesser omentum, this membrane here. Now, if we go to what's called the free edge of this membrane, we can see we've got a little aperture here. And this is a little foramen. This is a hole. And this is the omental foramen, or the epiploic foramen. And this actually allows the greater sac, which we can put our hand in, to communicate with a space that is located behind the stomach. That space is known as the lesser sac. And these two sacs are formed as the stomach rotates during development. We can see then that we can communicate the greater sac, which is around the small intestines, around the large intestine. We can communicate with the lesser sac via this omental foramen. The greater sac can be further divided into supracolic and infracolic compartments just by looking at the transverse colon. And everything below the transverse colon is infracolic, so the small intestines, ascending, descending colon. And everything above the transverse colon, the stomach and liver and spleen, is in the supracolic compartment. We'll return to these later on.